you can have it all, but not all at the same time. Can't be the perfect mother, the perfect professional, the perfect partner. It's really about leaning in and deciding for you who the main character is going to be for a certain period of time. Just be kind to yourself. Just stop putting that pressure on you. It's okay if you're not at a certain, level of your career or making a certain salary that you planned will come.
Welcome back to Organized Chaos. Today, I have a very exciting guest for us. She has been through a ton of moves recently. She moved to a new house. She started a new job. She has a bunch of news happening in her life. I know that a lot of us working in tech, that kind of throws off our routine. It throws off how we've expected things to go, and we have to set those new routines. So Jocelyne, I'm not going to say a whole lot more about what we're going to chat about, because honestly, it's going to be very organized chaos. It's going to be very much what we do here on this podcast, which is just chat.
I love it.
Back and forth. So Jocelyne, let's start by having you introduce yourself, say hello, and tell us a little bit about who you are.
Thank you. Well, thank you so much for having me on your podcast. I love the name Organized Chaos. I embrace chaos because it's harder to try to control it than to just accept it and, just take things as they are. So I'm Jocelyne. Hi, I am a marketer. I am a mother, a sister, a daughter, a lot of things. I've been working in marketing for my entire career, having worked both on the company side as well as on the agency side of things. My agency career was very strongly focused on branding agencies. So everything that has to do with building love brands or building brands, positioning them, the strategic part of things. I've worked for very, very different kinds of brands, verticals, industries. I started in the luxury automotive section, so working for Bentley Motors, but I've worked for tobacco brands, cosmetics brands, telecommunications, mobile marketing, and most recently blockchain and now open source. So I've done a ton of different things.
You've had such a cool career journey. A lot of people that I talk to now, it makes sense that people switch jobs every couple of years. That didn't used to be the case, but you rarely hear about people switching industries so often. And I think that's what's so cool about you and your marketing background is you bring this breadth of experience and understanding of multiple different consumer groups. Do you feel like that's helped you as you've moved through your career? Was there a reason why you decided to jump into those different industries? Was it interest, opportunity?
I think it's a great advantage. I notice it when I get contacted a lot by recruiters, and I notice that what they really like about my profile is that I have this T-shaped profile, as they say. So I'm more of a generalist. When you talk about marketing can be very different things, right? My core skill is branding. So like positioning, messaging, defining the USP, the vision, the mission. I know a lot of people who feel insecure about, not knowing enough of one thing and, being generalist. And I'm like, no, go for it. That's actually your strength. Adding to that, the fact that I have a very international background. You might hear from my French accent that I come from France, but I've, lived in different countries. I'm now based in Germany, where I've been working my entire career almost. I speak German, English, and French, and I can work in those three languages. Now, to the other question, I never chose to do that. It was never my plan. I had a plan as a kid. I wanted to study law and become a judge.
Ooh, do tell.
So when I finished high school, I started studying law for 2 years, and then I got so bored. I immediately realized it was not my career path. I studied international relations because I always knew I wanted to go abroad and travel, and that was more important to me than one specific thing. And then that led me to my first internship in sales and marketing at a luxury automotive supplier or manufacturer. And then I thought, okay, I didn't study marketing, but I've already started my career journey. I've started working. So I didn't want to go back to school. And that's why I decided to join an agency, because I thought it would be the best way to learn. Because obviously, when you work for an agency, you have very different kinds of clients. I used to work for Volkswagen, for Siemens, for a networking platform, for a beauty cosmetics company, for a luxury hotels company. So like all of that just came to me due to the nature of our business as an agency. So it was never a choice, but having experienced that early on in my career, I was like, oh, I love that. I'm a very curious person. What brings me joy is really to grow and learn new things. Having this very versatile background very early on my career allowed me to also sell that in my profile, saying, hey, I might have not worked in your industry, but I'm really able to learn very, very quickly and dive into it.
See, I told you have such a cool background. What was it like working in, those are more traditional industries, right? You talk about automotives, you talk about luxury goods, you talk about hospitality. What was it like switching over into tech?
It was a very big difference or a huge change for me. With every new role that I start, I realize there's always a new thing. Like I need to adapt, but on a different level. So I started my career working for a corporate company, which was very big. There were a lot of processes for everything. And basically one person was dedicated to one task. And I thought that was like normal. And then I worked on the agency side of things. And then I realized at agency, you also have different types of profiles. Like I was, for example, a client person. I started as a client manager, then client director, meaning you're actually a combination of project manager, but also salesperson. And that was also very different because depending on who my clients were, I needed to adapt or understand their internal processes. Like working for Siemens is not the same as working for, an app marketing tech company. Yeah. The way you present your work is different. The arguments that you find to convince your stakeholders are very different. As I said, I'm very interested in growing, learning new things. So I've been very fulfilled on that level. I think it also gave me the understanding that I needed to realize that depending on who the company is that I'm working for or that I have in front of me, the internal processes are very different. Working on the agency side of things, we worked on so many different concepts and, the projects were meticulously planned and so on. And then you hand them over to your clients and you don't know what happens. And then I changed sides and started working on the client side and realized not always, but most times they don't really know what to do with those projects that you hand over to them. They have this huge, amazing content or, results that was very expensive, but they don't really know how to implement it. Or, it's like the marketing person who keeps it within marketing and doesn't realize that it's important to share that with the entire organization. So it's been a very interesting and insightful journey so far. And I think it's really provided me with the ability to adapt depending on the environment that I'm at. I love to roll my sleeves up and just, get going. I love the strategic part of things, but I think the balance is what makes me happy.
That makes me happy too. Did you have a favorite industry?
Yeah. I have to say, I've always worked for industries that I thought were interesting. The funny thing is that I was on the agency side back then, but I worked with a very big tobacco company for a long time. Working for that company was very hard to find people, book freelancers, because a lot of people were like, no, tobacco, I don't do that. It's one of the roles that I enjoyed the most because those companies have huge budgets and the legal restrictions are really, really high. So there's like just so much you can do. But on the marketing side of things, you can have so much fun, come up with so many ideas and different things to do. And there's always budgets, unlimited budget to do those things.
Dream.
Then I also enjoyed the experiences that were close to, things that I enjoy doing in my private time. So like lifestyle products, like lifestyle hotels, lifestyle hospitality, and most recently blockchain. I really liked working in the Web3 space because I would say that I'm part of that community and there's like a lot of values that I share. I think the biggest driver though for me is not necessarily the industry, but the actual role, like what I'm doing, the task that I have, what the challenge is. That's what really gets me really excited.
Yeah, I agree. But I think for me, when it comes to the industry, the content that I'm developing around it, the storyline, the narrative, like I am so specific. I just have to be bought in. I have to be bought into the company, the idea, the ideals, the ethos, the founders, all of that before I can support it from a marketing standpoint, because I've definitely been in the position before where I've had to put together a marketing campaign and I'm like, okay, I can do this. but this isn't driving me in the way that I think you need that fuel or that fire lit under you in order to feel job satisfaction, want to actually stay at the company, like all the things that lead to, the elusive work-life balance that we're all trying to reach.
That's an interesting thing. I guess thinking about it, what really gives me satisfaction is not always the same thing. It depends on the company, on the role. So sometimes it was really the product of the company or the industry that the company was in. Sometimes it was the role that I had, but sometimes it was also the people that I was working with, the team around me, the fact that it was super international. Like I don't have a 10-year plan or whatever, but I have a 3-year plan. I'm joining this company. This is what I want to get out of it. And then, in 3 years from now, let's reassess and see who I have become. I'm not always the same person. I'm a different person today than I was 3 years ago. I'm a different person today than I was 10 years ago. So it's always about reassessing and then readjusting.
One of my favorite phrases is if you're not earning, learning, or growing at your current company or in your current role, then you need to reevaluate it because you can do one of those 3 things. But if you're not doing any of them, then it's probably time for you to move on, ask, have a conversation about how your role can shift to better suit you and your skill set. We don't all have a 10-year plan. God, if I had a 10-year plan 10 years ago, it would have been thrown out the window 8 million times.
Right. Plans are made to be changed.
Oh, yes. I think you can have a general idea and then you make decisions with the information that you have on hand.
I want to react on something that you just said because I find it very interesting. I share the same opinion. Like if you're not learning, earning, or growing, then you need to reassess. I agree with that because I'm that person too. But I've noticed that not everyone is like that. Yeah. Some people need to have a job because they need, safety, financial security, or whatever it is. And they're totally okay with having this routine of always doing the same thing over and over again because they have other priorities outside of work or other responsibilities. So that's also something that I've learned to understand and respect as a manager, because as a manager and as a leader, I always try to encourage my team members to, go out of their comfort zones, learn and grow. And I've learned to accept that not everyone wants to go there. I mean, of course, a lot of people do, but some people are just happy with the peace of mind that they have with, having the same role that they master, the same salary, and that's it. And they're happy.
Yeah, that is super interesting because I think in a way that is earning for them, right? Like you are hitting the facet of earning. You're just looking at it in a different way. Like I've definitely been in jobs before where I've gone, nah, this isn't necessarily where I want to be for the rest of my life, but I will be here as a stepping stone because it's giving me a moment to heal, to spend time with family, to go and do those other things that I need to prioritize right now. So maybe there needs to be a fourth question in there. If you're not earning, learning, growing, or taking care of yourself.
What is it that this role is bringing you? Like, where do you find satisfaction in being in this position? Is it because it's kind of boring, but you have the security of that job, or is it for other reasons?
But then the management question is also super interesting because I was having a conversation with someone the other day who is new to management. And she was saying that she was having a hard time with the cultural differences between the US and the UK. She was not really able to wrap her arms around the fact that not everybody views work in the way that she does. I think she has some very high achieving people on her team. And then she had a couple of folks who, if they got messaged after 5 p.m., it was like, nah, I'll take care of that tomorrow, friend. And as a leader, how do you think about kind of shifting those management tactics, helping the people you can help, but then also just recognizing, hey, not everyone's going to be the person that maybe I am and not projecting that onto them?
The way I grew up kind of made me understand that very early. And I've always been like that. So my background is I'm half French, half Nigerian. So my mother's African, my dad's European. I grew up in Africa for the first years of my life. Very early on, I realized what might be important for one culture is not necessarily important for the other culture. And I guess this is something that I've always had, like, whether it's talking about manners, behavior, work ethic. So I always have this in mind. Like, for example, right now, the organization that I'm working for has a team that's quite international. We have, colleagues from Asia, from the US, from Germany, from other European countries. And I know that everyone has different expectations. I'm already hearing, complaints about, this person saying, yeah, but that person is not reliable. They're always doing this a certain way. And I know that it's cultural. Yeah. I've always been all about finding out what people's strengths are very quickly, identifying those strengths, because no one is perfect. I'm not perfect. I do mistakes all the time, every day, all day. So it's really about using that particular person's strengths, empowering them to, use that strength even more. If someone is, I don't know, a great writer, but terrible at spelling, then I'll just let them write that content piece and make sure someone else proofreads it. Or there are different ways of, navigating around that. And that's not how I create or develop my judgments about a certain team or person.
Yeah. I wish that more leaders from my past had taken that similar approach, because there were many times where I was told I had to develop this one skill and I had to be this one person. Otherwise, I can effectively board the train and leave. A lot of American companies I've found too, not that I want to hate on American companies, they work in a very particular way, but it's hard for them to relate to their European counterparts because they think that everyone in Europe is going to work the same way. And that's not true.
Yeah.
Europe is this big conglomerate. Same thing with Asia. It's a big conglomerate of people come from very different backgrounds and have different experiences, and the cultures are going to, follow suit. What else for you, like in finding this job that you've just joined in this role, what else is important? What other pieces are you prioritizing?
There are different things. The main thing is actually growth. Like, how much am I going to grow out of this position? How much am I going to learn? How challenging is it going to be? I love this feeling of, oh my God, I'm never going to be able to do this. Like this fear that you have at the beginning. It gives me a real kick. I really like that. The second most important thing is the people that I work with. I mean, you can be the greatest company on earth. If I feel like the people that I'm going to be closely working with are, we're not vibing, then I'm not going to go for that. I've turned down offers because I was like, oh my God, I don't see myself speaking to that person 10 times a day.
You have to, right?
Right. Yeah. It's like life's too short. Like, I really make very selfish decisions, and it's really about how much am I going to grow? How much am I going to enjoy working with those people? And the third thing is flexibility. I've worked freelance for several years, but I think that the main reason why flexibility is so important to me is that I have children. And thanks to the years working as a freelancer, thanks to the pandemic, I realized how fast time passes and how important it is to me to still be there for my children. So I'll always only choose a role if it allows me the flexibility of spending those 2 hours with them in the evening, having dinner with them, having those chats about how was your day and, how are you feeling lately? And if I work for a company that doesn't understand that, well, it's not a good fit. No.
Have you ever worked for a company like that?
I haven't.
Good.
I haven't. Never. Or maybe I have, but that was before I had kids. But no, like the company that I'm working for now has a fully remote policy. So I can basically work from anywhere and everywhere. So yeah, growth, team, like people, and then flexibility is what I really look at. Obviously, there are a few other important things, but those are the three main criteria I will base my decision on.
And your team, because I find that on tech teams, a lot of people oftentimes don't have kids, or they're at the stage of thinking about starting to have kids. Do you feel like the rest of your team, whether at the company that you work for now or the company that you've worked for before, understand really what it's like to be a full-time mother and working full-time? Do they understand all that goes into it? Do you feel like they give you that flexibility and, those opportunities? Or is there a little bit of education that still needs to happen?
I think mindset is key. The minute I had kids, and I have to say, I have twins, they were born way too early, 2.5 months too early. So it wasn't clear at the beginning whether they were going to survive. Wow. We spent a lot of time at the hospital. So for me, it was very, very important to be there for them. And that's why I started working on a freelance basis after they were born. And that kind of gave me the confidence to always say, because as a freelancer, you tell your clients, so this is, this is my daily rate. I'm available from then to then. And I've always done that. So when I decided to go back in-house, I was always very clear about who I was. So this is me. I have children, just so you know, I'll be offline or I'll have to leave earlier. And that was never a problem. I think it might be a problem when you feel like it's, it's a baggage that you're carrying or something. That I've always made very clear that being a mother is my priority, but, being that professional at your company is also a priority. So let me manage things the way that works for me. Just make sure I'm performing the way you want me to. Just make sure I'm delivering the results you want me to deliver. Everything else is my decision to make. And that's how I've showed up over the past years, like since I've been a mother, and it's never been a problem. Like I always make sure in the very first interview with a company, I always say that I have kids. And it's not, oh, by the way, I wanted to mention, I try and make it natural. Yeah. It's like a joke. Oh, yeah, like my son was saying this last time, or, so people know. Yeah. And then that's how they're like, oh, you have kids? And I'm like, yeah, too. And yep.
It's a part of your story. It's a part of who you are, because
exactly
you bring that entire full personality, background, life to work with you. Yeah. It's not just the work that you're producing. Like every part of you really blends into that.
I realize it might be more challenging for someone who just had their first child and works for, a bigger corporate company. You're gone for a while, you come back, maybe you've been replaced or, the structure has changed. It's kind of intimidating. I would encourage anyone who's listening to this podcast to never be afraid of just showing up again. As you may have had a child, but you're still that professional. You're still as good as you were before. You gave birth to a human, you feed that human, and you can work on top of that. You've actually gained skills. You didn't lose any skills. So that's how I always show up. And that's what I encourage my friends or my network or people that I meet, women that I meet to do as well.
Yeah. I think that's a great piece of advice, because we all need to be reminding each other of that. Imposter syndrome is so deeply ingrained in, I guess, the, plight of a woman, right? We're all taught that we need to be quiet and sit down and not talk too loud. And a lot of that is changing, luckily. But like you say, when you're having your first baby, you might come back to work and things will have changed, and you need to start to test that muscle of setting boundaries, of recognizing who you are, of having that confidence to be like, no, I'm going to show up in the way I'm going to show up. And now I'm a mother. It's a part of my personality. It's a part of who I am. And it doesn't mean I can't still get shit done, because now I'm getting twice as much shit done.
It doesn't make me less. It actually makes me more. So what should I be ashamed of? No.
Yeah. Speaking of, all these different parts of yourself that you pull in, who are you outside of work? What does your outside of work schedule look like? Because I think we all, so often I know people love this question, because we talk about our life inside of work, which is great, but it's also important to be this well-rounded person. How do you kind of stay sane with all the different things that you're juggling?
I mentioned earlier that I'm a very curious mind. So I love challenging myself. I love learning new things. Obviously, outside of work, one of my main occupations is being a mother. So experiencing things with my kids, going to museums, going on trips, traveling is something that we do. I'm very much into self-care as well. It's very important for me to feel confident as a mother, as a professional, to feel grounded. So I go to a lot of different things or places that make me feel good. I work out regularly. I love that sweat. It gives me so much mental strength and energy. Yeah. Every now and then, treat myself to a spa or get my nails done. All of those things that might sound very superficial, but they're necessarily.
Yeah, I think it's rejuvenation time, right? Like, I do my nails every single week. I always have my nails done.
I love your nails, by the way. They look great.
I'll put them in later and see if it zooms in. There we go. They're my Valentine's Day nails. So about a year ago, I started doing my nails on my own because it got very expensive to go to the salon so much. And so I do them on my own. You could look at that as, oh, that's superficial, and why does she need her nails done? Or, no, this is something that makes me feel good. It makes me look good too. But it makes me feel like I can show up as my best self, and I feel confident when they're done. And, my friends and I talk about it as we're building a team around us. And your team doesn't just need to include your doctors, right? All these people that you go to make you feel good.
Massages. I try to get a massage on a regular basis as well, because, sitting in front of a computer all day long, or working out as well. I do CrossFit, so it kind of like makes my body feel sore a lot of the time. So yeah, of course, anything that makes me feel good and makes me feel at peace with myself, I try and do as much of that as I can. But however, it's very important to me to also rest when I feel like I need to rest. So spending time doing nothing is also important to me, especially during the winter. Like I will spend weekends here at home doing nothing, just watching Netflix or watching out the window or reading a book. It's very important to me to have that downtime as well. So I'm not like always busy, always on the run. I need to spend time doing nothing and just recharging as well.
I love that you said that, because I am such a homebody too. But I feel like oftentimes when I have conversations with people and they go, "What do you do on the weekends?" They almost expect me to say, "Oh, I'm out every weekend and I'm at art galleries and like I'm out parties." No, like JOMO. Yeah, exactly. Oh, major JOMO. Major joy of missing out. Like I have to sit on my couch. I have to take baths and, read a good book and not hear anything for a while. I think that means that on Monday morning, I can wake up and not have had those Sunday scaries the night before. Like those used to overwhelm me. And then when I started implementing these systems, they helped so much more than I can even say. If we have someone listening to this right now that's going, "God, I'm just so overwhelmed with work and finding childcare and being a mother and finding, my personal life," like it'll be really hard to put this into one piece of advice. But if you had one piece of advice for that person, what would that be?
I think you can have it all. You can have it all, but not all at the same time. It's just not possible. You can't be the perfect mother, the perfect professional, the perfect partner, blah, 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 all at the same time. So it's really about leaning in and deciding for you who the main character is going to be for a certain period of time. I have to say, until a few years ago, for me, the main character was the mother in me. So it was okay for me not to be, on the level I wanted to be on as a professional, because I had expectations as a mother and that was my priority. Now that my kids are big enough, I'm focusing on my career again. And that's like the main character in my life. So I think you can definitely have it all, but not all at the same time. So just be kind to yourself. Just stop putting that pressure on you. It's okay if you're not at a certain, level of your career or making a certain salary that you planned to make when you were in your mid 30s or end 30s. All of that is okay. Will come. Yes. Who am I right now? Am I the mother? Am I the professional? Am I the partner? And I've been all of those persons and still am, but there's always a different focus.
Yeah. Choose the main character that you want to be. Choose what kind of energy you bring into it. Who are you going to be today for the foreseeable future? But then that can always change. And that can always shift as life does.
Exactly. You're never the same person, especially if you just, if motherhood is new to you, the first years are always different, because it's different to mother a baby, a newborn, than to mother a toddler. I'm now mothering or parenting teenagers. It's also different. So it's always a different challenge, and you evolve and you're never the same person. And it's totally okay. Just accept it and be kind to yourself.
Thank you so much, Jocelyne. This has been such a beautiful conversation. Thank you for being vulnerable and open and sharing your story. I so appreciate you. Thank you for coming on.
Thank you so much for having me.
Thank you so much. All right, everyone. See you next time. Thanks.